I don't see many people making videos about budget PC builds and setups and the journey from console over to low-cost PC gaming. So I thought I'd give this a little go within the context of sim racing, of course. As many people will know, I have been a console gamer for many, many years, although I did make my first foray into gaming and sim racing on an old family PC. But as soon as I turned 15, I got my first console, and I've never looked back because I hated messing around with settings and adjusting parameters for every game to be just spot on and loading times and all of those things. I've always been one for the convenience of consoles. All of you know, of course, that I am heavily into Gran Turismo. I've had every game, and I now use the PSVR 2 on Gran Turismo, and I absolutely adore it. But part of my commentary work, I felt like the time was right to invest in a PC early last year in advance of a new season and some new things that I needed to learn and develop rather than direct streaming. When I bought that, I tried to make sure that it had a good sounding graphics card. It had some sense of longevity to it, some empty RAM slots and so on. But when I bought my PC secondhand and reconditioned, but the value of it was probably around twice the value of a new PS5 basic, which was a very heavy investment for my sense of normality anyway, although it is a very, very average PC spec, which I'll leave in the description for you. Anyway, bought this and I started streaming and started to understand a little bit more about how to improve my commentary work and my streaming, and then I got my amazing agreement with Sensei Haptics, and using that system meant that I had to have a PC on all the time and run SimHub. Absolutely fine, but I'm turning my PC on as well as my PS5 every time I want to drive now because I can't go back to not having that amazing feel in the seat. So I've been curious about PC gaming. I've been curious about the various sim racing platforms, in particular the cars and the content that I don't get on ACC, on Gran Turismo, on an ACU, on console. And Black Friday came along, the games were reduced, and so I just, out of curiosity, and I had a couple of weeks where I could just commit to trying lots of things out, I thought, let's dive in. I upgraded my sim rig. I can talk to you a little bit more about that if you want, but I decided it's time to go and try out these sims. I have used a free version of iRacing before. I don't want to go into the financial burden of iRacing just yet, and I wasn't about to try those two new sims either. Okay, so AC Evo was the first one that I was curious about. I think I paid around £15 and I loaded it up. No DLC at the moment, it's all base cost. So I load up and it fired up fairly well, I have to say, and my initial jump in was quite impressive. Maybe the odd little graphic artifact or slowdown, but I kind of understood what was going on and how to optimize things quite quickly. So first impressions were really good, and I noticed a few fantastic cool things, you know, like the lighting effects, the damage model, and that kind of thing. But issues-wise on AC Evo, they've just gotten worse and worse for me. So it seems to be really hit and miss whether my system can actually handle it. And I had to learn a little bit about graphics card naming systems because I thought I had something reasonable, and it turns out I have like a pretty low-end 3050. I didn't realize that it was the second two digits that made all the difference in the world. So if you want to use AC Evo, believe them when they say recommended should be a XX60. I also got a little bit tired of the handling on AC Evo, and the contact model is a bit crazy. Even the single player, it feels like you as the human driver is getting the worst of every tiny little contact. It doesn't matter what type of contact, you're just flying off the circuit. The car doesn't feel like it's got a lot of weight on the track or a lot of grip on the track when it's doing something unusual like being collided with. And graphics wise, in terms of actual smoothness and frame rate, it's been very, very spotty. I've had to restart my PC every time I want to play it, and it also wouldn't change monitor, which was a weird thing for a while there as well. I've had to spend a lot more time messing around with AC Evo than I would have wanted to, but you know, it's pretty good, and I just don't really know at the moment what it's trying to be. I kind of have a better feeling of the next sims I'm going to talk to you about, but AC Evo just feels to me like a very slightly prettier Gran Turismo with maybe a tenth of the content. So I don't know. It's not something I keep coming back to. I'm not curious about the content that's there at the moment. I've tried everything. I've got bored of everything. The tracks are in every other sim. I don't really know what I'm supposed to be feeling about AC Evo. It's not doing anything for me that GT7 doesn't do way better. Maybe with the rain at every track in the game, whereas GT7 doesn't. An interesting one is you put dynamic weather on and it starts dry and then goes wet every single race before or around lap 2. So it's not exactly dynamic, it's just must change to rain. And some of the effects are great, some are not so great. I don't know. It's something that, yes, it's technically early access, but they're charging various amounts of money for it. So I'm a little bit stuck with it. Moving on then to the next one that I paid a significant outlay for, about roughly equal to what I paid for AC Evo at the time, is Le Mans Ultimate LMU. I was super excited about it. I really want that content. I really want the hypercars. Obviously, I can drive GT3 cars in absolutely every platform going, but a couple of the tracks, the hypercars in particular, some of the LMP2s as well, and LMP3s if I buy extra, really excited about it. Felt really positive. First impressions were a little bit annoyed by the fact that I start the game up and they're already selling to me. I don't know, bugbear of mine, but actually give some content before you go ahead and ask for a whole bunch more money. And of course a subscription model option that's available on LMU. It's just not the best start to your gameplay. And then I could not get my wheel to work well at all. So I'm running a Logitech RS50, and even in compatibility mode, I just couldn't understand what was happening. And so I'm going down the straights at Le Mans and I can barely hang on to the wheel. And then I go back to the garage, and the longer I sit still in the garage, the worse the wheel shake gets. And it was driving me round the bend. In the end, I did manage to find the answer in the LMU Discord. Some helpful people were there. They didn't really have any staff cover during the Christmas break, so they didn't really have any staff helping during, I don't know, what was certainly for me the best opportunity to try the game. But anyway, the community helped out, and it was about steering sensitivity, and actually I had to turn the wheel angle to the absolute maximum, 2700 degrees, in order for it to match what I wanted in the game and what the actual wheel animation was doing in the game. But when we finally got there, I started to really enjoy it. I'm struggling with the graphics running mixed class racing, and you could argue that is probably the biggest reason for buying LMU, is to enjoy that insanity of having 3 different class cars on the same track. So when that was happening, I was getting a stuttering car issue around me. I couldn't really understand what was going on. And even on like medium AI aggressiveness, the cars were unreal and smashing into me every time I was on track with them. So I had to turn that on to safe just to start getting a rhythm and actually race with the AI. So I think the AI is a little bit over the top. The other big problem with LMU for me was off track, and still is. There is no controlling the cars off track. Doesn't matter if you're on grass, gravel, or runoff asphalt, high grip painted asphalt, the cars just skate. It's basically as if they've got an asphalt track and ice around it. And there's not a lot of difference in the actual feel off track either between materials. So I think that's something they really want to work on and improve. The weather is okay, not bad, not knocked out of the park, but it was pretty good. I did get online for a couple races, but I really felt like I was out of my depth. So I stuck to a lot of single player streams, but I'm getting more and more into it. So it's kind of a rough start with LMU, but I'm getting better and better. Obviously, I've had to turn the graphics way down. It's a brand new sim, which is a shame. The mirror level of detail is appalling, but that's down to the level of performance of my system. So anyway, that's my feeling about LMU. I think I will keep going back to it. I think I may consider actually subscribing or buying some DLC. So, you know, watch this space. If you have enjoyed what I've done so far, if you enjoy other things on the channel, or you've got questions, just try and hit something positive under this video today. Let me know what you think, what you want me to do more of, what you want me to try, and I will do my best to try and help, but really appreciate all the support. You can join to actually support these videos on a monthly basis as well. Join the channel and help me make more videos and keep the channel alive. So the other thing I want to mention is rFactor 2. I wasn't actually planning on trying rFactor 2, but I saw quite a lot of chatter about it, and they have the exclusivity on Formula E and British touring cars, I believe. So I was very interested in that. Started up rFactor 2, and it looked terrible. They've got these absolutely beautiful, like photorealistic pictures of it on the promo. But I've got everything in the game turned to ultra, and it really doesn't stack up or hold up well at all. Now, there may well be some graphical mods I can do, or I might be able to use my NVIDIA AI upscaling. I haven't gone into it yet. The handling's a bit odd, but there were some absolutely hilarious moments in my rFactor driving as well, and I've made some shorts out of those. They're good, and it's good for a laugh. It's good for a bit of fun occasionally. Tricky user interface. I know that gets a lot of criticism. It's very dated, but it really isn't much to look at all. And that was kind of disappointing. And I see no reason right now to spend any kind of money on rFactor 2. But if there are ways in which I can make that better, please let me know. I had a quick try of Assetto Corsa Competizione to compare how that went with the PS5 version. It looks better. Runs about the same. You've got a slightly better draw distance in terms of your perception of what is in front of you on the sort of further distance, which is something that's been really lacking, but it feels very similar. It's a lot of fun, but in order to get anything like the kind of content level, I'm going to have to spend the same amount of money as I've already spent on PS5, so I don't think the jump is quite sufficient for me. And of course, most of my community at Black Flag Racing on ACC are on console and you can't cross-play. So, you know, it was more about curiosity for me with ACC. A bit of a joker in the pack was Assetto Corsa Originale. So I picked that up for peanuts, and then I got dragged into it from my friends Larry and Badrock, and they told me I had to buy Ultimate, and then they would help me try and unlock everything. Now, I know AC has suddenly got a big influx of interest because of Max Verstappen's comments on a podcast about the physics handling, and I have to say, it is a little bit like the porn of SimRacing. If you can imagine it, you can probably find it within the mod community on Assetto Corsa, and particularly on places online like Traction, which used to be Race Department, right? So the only thing is, with AC, you really, if you are new to PC gaming, I wish you very well, and I wish you the best of luck trying to handle this on your own. But you really need a friend out there who can help you get everything set up. Badrock, shout out to Badrock, because he helped me and led me by the hand all the way through. Even the installation videos for Pure and for CSP, Custom Shaders Patch that is, even those videos weren't as clear as having a friend help you through it, and then you need to go find the content as well, and you need to be downloading the content. Right now, my Assetto Corsa folder is swelling very, very much, and it's really, really large, so you need hard drive space as well. But it is fabulously fun. We've been running lots of different things. I don't like the lack of livery editing within Content Manager, so I'm not loving that so much. And you know me, I love some liveries, and I love livery design. So being able to have authentic designs or being able to change them and edit them, I don't know how to do that yet. Maybe there's a way, but it is a slight bump for me. Physics is awesome. You really feel what's going on. And then, of course, the mods are hit and miss. So sometimes they are awesome, and sometimes they're direct ports from other games, so they should be pretty good. Sometimes they just lack a little bit of, textures on the outside, and sometimes it gets down to the point where you feel like you're playing rFactor 2 again, or you've gone back a decade. So yeah, but it was great to share some of my favorite tracks with friends at Malacca Motorsport, and to have a couple of community nights there was really fun. I don't know what it's going to be like to try and broadcast on it, but I had a lot of fun, and I think I will spend quite a lot of time on AC Original. And finally, and this was a big surprise, I'm coming to my favourite so far. My favourite of the new PC sims that I have tried so far. And yes, I have tried iRacing, and it's not iRacing, okay? So I got put on to RaceRoom Racing Experience, or I will probably just call it RaceRoom from now on. And specifically the historic touring cars. I love a bit of touring cars, so I do enjoy it when I can take part in that. So I picked up RaceRoom. It's free to play, which is incredible. You load it up and they do start selling to you, but I will take that a little bit better when when they've actually given you something for free rather than when you've already paid a bunch of money for the content. Anyway, and another little niggle actually about LMU is you can't see what content you've got until you click it and it tells you haven't got it. So you just have to remember. Anyway, enough about LMU. This is the RaceRoom section. RaceRoom started up, I think there were 5 or 6 free tracks. I want to say similar number of cars, but you get the sense that this is something pretty enormous and quite unique in sim racing. RaceRoom has tracks that I had heard of and never played. They had tracks I have never heard of at all. Real life tracks. There are only a handful of fantasy tracks, but they're very realistic looking. They're not silly, but they have these incredible range of tracks. Things like Po and like Macau that I have always been curious about and I've never seen in a game. So I think that those are awesome, and some of the car content is pretty amazing. They try and be kind of all things in terms of racing cars and a few classics, and I think that all of their car models I have played so far are really, really good. Really different, feel very different. You have to adjust your steering angle on your wheel for every different car's steering angle, which annoyed me to start with, but now I kind of appreciate as a real nod to realism. I think that's awesome. The other thing that is unique as far as I can see in sim racing so far is rev matching, not just on downshifts, but they've actually got rev matching on upshifts, to the point where you get into the Formula Junior car and you can't change up to second gear sitting there on the hill climb stage. And I'm sitting there going, why is this car broken? Is something not right in my wheel? But it's all about getting the perfect portion of the rev range for each car for upshifting. Now there's some tricked out GT3, GT4 race cars that it doesn't matter. You can just change at any point. But quite a lot of the cars in RaceRoom have this rev matching, and sometimes there's a couple cars there where you go to rev match the same rev point that you changed from first to second to go from third to fourth, and it doesn't work. And they've got unique rev match points to match the speed of the engine to the size of the gear in the car. And you are just left to discover that on your own and optimize. And it just unlocks something completely new in driving style. Something I picked up on AC Evo as well. Some of the road cars, the hypercars in AC Evo, you have to lift in order to upshift, because if you keep your foot planted, the back end will step out as you flick a gear up. It would encourage you to use the clutch like a road car. So that's kind of awesome, but RaceRoom kind of takes it 3 levels harder and more immersive. So RaceRoom for me is the business, and I can't wait to find out more about it and possibly start broadcasting on RaceRoom. The best indicator I've got so far of my new fandom of this sim racing platform is it is the one that I have spent the most money on DLC already. So I've already spent something like £35 on content. They had a big offer for lots of stuff over Christmas, so I bought an extra bunch, and then I've also unlocked a code where I get a free bunch of currency. You can take part in online competitions and win currency to spend on content, which is again very, very cool. Kind of flips the whole iRacing thing on its head for paid content, which I think is great. So that has been my experience so far on the different sim platforms. The big question, was it worth it? This is obviously highly subjective and just my opinion, but I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I'm going to say yes and provide some caveats in that, A, I kind of already made the decision to buy the PC before trying these games. So that's something a little bit different. Would I swap or sell the PS5 in order to fund buying a PC? And I would say no. It is not so good, so amazing that it is worth the trade-off of the convenience and the community and the player base of the PS5. Now the PS5 cost is relatively reasonable. The cost does have an ongoing subscription model, of course, with PS Plus that you have to have on certain games, but it does keep your online servers and communities running. So there's that. Would I decide, and I've also got the VR working perfectly, I have zero confidence that my PC setup and settings are sufficient to run my PSVR 2, which is a shame. So I am going to have to invest even more money. And we're probably talking about the value of a PS5 again in graphics cards in order to get the kind of performance I would compare to a PS5. So we're probably talking, I would say, 3 to 4 times the value of a PS5 to get something similar on the new sim platforms on AC Evo and LMU. LMU might come to PlayStation. I think it's supposed to, but who knows in sim racing. And you've got PMR and you've got Rennsport on their way to maturity. So hopefully it won't just be GT7 and ACC on PlayStation for much longer. I would probably consider an upgrade to PS5 Pro with my PSVR 2 if I had a little bit of extra money to spend. But the other caveat is that I really needed those 2 weeks to be able to commit multiple hours of settings, configurations, of installations, and all of those things in order to get anything like an enjoyable experience. Now, if I hadn't had those 2 weeks off and an entire day at one point just to mess around, I wouldn't be spending that time to configure a PC and configure the new Sims and a new wheel and everything. So, yeah, I would say that if you want the kind of choice that platforms like AC Original and RaceRoom give you, then a budget PC upgrade is well worth it. If you want that choice of tracks and of cars, it is worth it, absolutely, definitely. But if you want to run LMU and AC Evo, and you don't already have Gran Turismo or hypercars in something else in another platform, personally, I think it is better to wait and go big on the PC budget, to double that PC budget to, I would say, something around £2,000 at published point here and current value. I think you are looking at a XX70 at bare minimum on a graphics card, and obviously if you can get an 80 or a 90, then go for that. Don't do what I did and think that a 3050 is hugely better than a 1060. It's not. So I've had to learn a few things about stats and PCs and stuff that I wasn't aware of going in as a novice PC builder. Anyway, that is my summary. If you've got standout questions, let me know. But I hope you enjoyed this little tour around my recent experiences moving from PS5 to PC.